well. But hold on, I have to go to.
Sounds like you're playing video games. He's like, those guys think I'm actually doing stuff. Right? Yeah, no worries, man. Oh, okay. I see the countdown on the live feed. Hmm. I don't think so, because I usually just jump in after you've already started. Blame him. Hmm. The best quality videos. Yeah. 'Once you get going, yeah. Yeah. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Oh, where? That's right. Where at Delayed, you're saying? I'm watching it on YouTube, actually.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com, and I am joined by a new member of the Smokin Tabacco family tonight. Our beautiful Smokin Nicole could not be here, and neither could my very good friend, Mr. Jonathan M. Carney from La Flor Dominicana. But I have some awesome gents with me here tonight anyway. I have, welcoming to the Smokin Tabacco team, I have Mr. Nelson DeMello, who will be with us somewhat full-time now and be mostly an online contributor, but he'll be on the show from here and there from time to time, such as now when we need someone else to jump in. So Nelson, welcome aboard to the team. Welcome
Thanks,
to your
Matt.
first Smokin Tabacco show. It's going to be a wild ride, but more importantly, we have an awesome guest with us tonight. I'm really honored to have him on with us. It is Mr. Ernesto Perez-Carrillo from EP Carrillo. Ernesto, thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to sit down and chat with you two about cigars or whatever else you guys feel we should talk about. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, we can cover a lot of different things on the show tonight. First things first, I would say. So Ernesto, I don't think you're smoking a cigar with us tonight.
No, I'm not smoking a cigar, and I'll tell you why I'm not smoking a cigar. Between yesterday and today, I must have smoked, let me see, maybe 12, 13 cigars.
Oof.
Holy cow.
You know, there'll be another couple of months before I try another cigar.
Well, I mean, I mean, someone like you, I mean, you blending cigars, you're making cigars. I mean, it kind of comes with the territory. You gotta smoke a lot of cigars. So I can understand you probably get burnt out from time to time. So
people down here from the company, we were trying different blends, things we want to work on for next year. And let me tell you, it was a very interesting couple of days that we've had here, trying different tobaccos and different blends. So it was worth it.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really can't wait for. I mean, I've talked to Jose Blanco, as you know very well, about tobaccos, and I know he does his seminars and talked to a lot of other people in the industry. I was fortunate enough to do a little bit of tobacco tasting with Terrence Riley when I was down in Miami a few months ago. And just that little bit of the experience was just so awesome, and I can't wait to really get into that someday in the future, because I mean that whole side of the industry is something that I'd really love to explore too. So I'm really excited to I mean, smoking the cigars and all that other stuff, but to go to the factories and do the tastings and experience, especially the seminars and all that and the blending, that's a whole nother part of it that I can't wait to someday experience. And you being someone who's, I would say, considered by many a master blender, you got so much to share with us. So we're going to pick your brain a little bit tonight. I am going to be smoking the New Wave Connecticut Brillantes, the 5x50. And if you, sorry, one sec. So like I said, I'm in the producer's chair tonight. I'm not used to it. There we go. So here it is right here. Now it is, I don't believe this is available from our friends at twoguyscigars.com. However, they do carry a lot of other cigars from EP Carrillo. So don't forget to go and check them out. They do have both your 2018 and 2020 cigars of the year available at 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. Nelson, what are you smoking?
Well, I actually dug into my humidor. I was like, what do I have, buried in here from my Carrillo days? And I busted out because I usually buy them in a shop. If I buy them in a shop, I just smoke them. They don't even make it to my house. So I did find one that I haven't smoked in a while, which is the Elite Selección Oscuro. I love Toros anyways, and I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera. I'll try to get it out there. But I love this thing. This is a great smoke, and I'm way ahead of you.
I a lot of times I try to wait until we start the show with the guest to cut and light my cigar, and I can start it fresh right there. Unless I'm doing something like really big, and I try to get a head start. But no, this is a great cigar. I've had a few of these before. Fantastic, and to be honest with you, I didn't have much from EP Carrillo on hand, but I had a bunch of those, and that's a great cigar. I wanted to have the pledge with me tonight, but I just couldn't find it in time around here, so I missed.
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't believe I have Ernesto here that I can ask this question. So this is super cool. One of the sticks I really enjoy is the oh God, what the hell was it? It's escaping right now. The pledge, but it's the Sojourn.
So, yeah.
How was it pronounced?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, it is.
Pronounced as Sojourn.
Sojourn. Okay.
It's I believe it's a French name. That's and that's supposed to mean, if I'm not mistaken, like the prequel is like before my career, I guess, leading up to the Sojourn, which is where my career is now. And then we're coming out with another one called the Apogee, which is the how can I like the whole story of my career, I guess you could say that. It's actually the very interesting things that we my daughter and we have some people that have come up with all these concepts and different names, which at first I heard them and I said, I really don't understand. I don't know if people will be able to really understand it. But when you know what they mean, when you understand the meaning, it all makes a whole lot of sense. So.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. I got what I needed, so I'm going to take off now. Thanks.
Oh, okay. That's all you needed.
Now I don't sound like an idiot in the shops anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, so basically you jumped in just to ask Ernesto one question. Now you're all done with us. All right, I see how it is. I see how it is.
No, I want to hear about the journey, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
So there's a lot of different things we could talk about and start with. Ernesto, you're a very interesting guy. You've accomplished a lot. You've done a lot of interesting things. In the last 3 years alone, you've gotten Cigar of the Year twice, which is an impressive feat to do, I guess, in such a short amount of time. First with the Encore and then with the Pledge. Tell me, does that change anything for you?
Man, it took me, basically the ratings have been around for what, 15 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so now when you look at it, say, but there was, I don't know, 12 years, 13 years, where every year you were waiting, hoping to get that number one, and you say, okay, it didn't happen this year, maybe next year. But the thing is, after a while, after you been doing this for a while, you kind of, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because, I mean, in spite of, everything that we all do to try to make great cigars and, please our customers, that's really like the one thing that everybody, I think every manufacturer, every cigar maker strives for to get a #1 rating in Cigar Aficionado. So it was really, when we accomplished that, it was really, like I guess you could say in many ways, like a dream come true. We finally did this. And then to have it done a year, not the following year, but the year after, was something other that, that was also very, it just challenges you more to be sure that, you always try to do your best. And always you shoot for that third one. There's only one company that has three, and that's my next goal. So,
what was it like? That you never really hear about this when something like that happens. What was it like at the factory, right? When that second announcement comes out, you already did it once, but now you did it again.
Well, let me just tell you, with Pledge, it was Pledge originally. We started working on Pledge 2019, and we were going to go into the 2020. We were going to introduce it, but already in 2019 we were selling a Pledge, and it was really, taking off incredibly. So in 2019, when we got the rating, 2020, when we got the rating, we had just come off well, we were starting to get into the COVID plague or pandemic or whatever. So in March, we basically, closed the factory for about 2 months, and, needless to say, production stopped. And we were right in January when we got the rating. I can't start to tell you how the demand for that was. So I mean, it was something that you weren't prepared for to a certain degree, but then being hit with this, just made it in spite of the fact that it was a great feeling, but it was just hard to accept that something like this was happening, and that we couldn't be taking advantage of it. Trying to get as many cigars out there, and try to get everybody that wanted the Pledge to be able to enjoy it.
Yep.
So I mean, it was how do you say it was challenging. Let's just put it that way. To try to make enough cigars to fill the pipeline. Because I do have to say the demand for this particular cigar was, I would have to say, probably 2 to 3 times what the demand was for the Encore.
Wow.
So the Encore was huge. This was even bigger. So there's no way you can prepare for that.
So I guess the question everyone wants to ask, and I know you probably won't give the answer just yet, but what is that cigar you're working on that you're trying to make number 3? I like to ask the tough questions,
me, it's all about the different wrappers. With the La Historia in 2014, we got a number 2 cigar of the year. And that was really my first time working with the San Andrés Mexican wrapper.
Mm-hmm.
When we got the in 2018, it was about the Jalapa wrapper from Nicaragua, and now it's about the Havana, Connecticut, grown in the United States. So I mean, it's about finding a wrapper that's new to the market, that's different, and that I think that can make an impact. Because we can try to duplicate with what we have now, and I'm not saying we can, but I think when you have something that's really unique, that's something people haven't perhaps tried before, that's when you start to get the buzz out there. And this is what happened with all these 3 cigars.
Yeah.
The moment we made them, whether we introduced them at PCA or wherever or whatever, they were always in demand after that initial introduction.
I mean, I guess is a good way to segue into kind of the blending stuff that we wanted to get to. I mean, a lot of the audience is always asked, a little bit more on, and that's why I think this would be great. I've had people ask me, when we have certain guests on, or it comes up in conversation, to kind of get more into the nitty gritty of how cigars are made and how they're blended and whatnot. You mentioned wrappers, and you mentioned, trying to work with something, with different wrappers and stuff. Would you say, as a blender, would you say when you go in to blend something, is that wrapper of the cigar one of the most, if not the most important tobacco that you look at as a whole, to kind of control all the rest in the binder and the filler? You know, where would you say that level of importance lies with just the wrapper alone?
Well, for me, it's anywhere from 60 to 70% of what the cigar is going to be. And believe me, I've had a lot of years doing this. Over 40 years on my own and 50 years since I started with my father back in Little Havana. And I would have to say that the wrapper is really what's going to make that cigar distinguish in the sense of the aromas, the complexities. Now, of course, if you have a bad blend, no matter what wrapper you put there, it's not going to work. But if you have a good blend and you have a wrapper that really mixes well or blends well with the rest of the tobacco, especially the binder, I'm sorry, then you're going to have a cigar that should be something distinguished, something that should be a success. And this is what I find. The wrappers, the way you ferment those wrappers, the aging of the wrappers, all these things are very important. But that being said, again, you have to have the right tobacco to go with that wrapper, the right binder that will work with that, marinate with that particular wrapper.
Now,
It's not as easy as, okay, I have a great wrapper, it tastes great. Let's just put it on it, on a mild cigar. You'll give it a different taste that maybe a medium or a full body, but still, all the tobaccos have to work together. And even, as much as half a leaf, which a wrapper is really, when you look at it, it's only half a leaf in the whole blend.
right.
So much influence on the rest of the blend that I think, to me, that's really, one of the most important tobacco in any blend, the wrapper.
Now, when it comes to aging and fermenting the wrapper tobacco, what separates that process, for wrapper tobacco specifically from, maybe the binder and filler tobaccos that you use? I mean, is it a much more stringent process and longer and just a little bit more maybe temperamental, just because you're trying to get that higher quality, grade from it once it's all said and done, so that it performs well when you go to roll with it?
Yeah, well, it depends on the type of wrapper. For instance, all fillers and basically all binders are sun grown. A lot of the wrappers that we use are, shade grown, as is the jalapa. The wrappers grown in Ecuador, because there's not that much sun. It's also a sort of shade grown tobacco. And all of these wrappers, depending on the seed, because that's very important, the seed and where this tobacco is grown determines a lot how you're going to ferment that tobacco. And it's incredible. There's some seeds that will ferment faster, that you can age longer, and there's some seeds that are grown in certain places that you really don't need to do that much fermentation. An example being, for instance, the Connecticut grown in Ecuador is much different than the Connecticut grown in Connecticut. So those things you have to understand. The Habanos that are grown in Ecuador, you have to ferment, you have to age to a certain degree different than the ones grown in Nicaragua. So it all depends on the type of tobacco, the type of seed, and of course you have to understand these tobaccos. You have to have some experience, because this happened to me when I first started using the jalapa wrapper. I hadn't used that wrapper in many years, and believe me, it took me something that I thought I was going to be able to accomplish, let's say 3 or 4 months. It took me almost a year, because I didn't understand how that tobacco worked. And this had a lot to do with the seed and the where it was grown. It was great tobacco, but it just needed time that I wasn't planning on that. I thought it was going to be like, again, in 3 or 4 months I was going to have this tobacco ready, and it took me over a year to really get it ready. Now, when you look at Maduros, like you look at broadleaf, you look at the Havana, Connecticut, you're looking at anywhere from 8 months to a year before you can get this tobacco ready. So again, those are not shade grown, but there's a lot of oils in the broadleaves, especially in the Havana, Connecticut, and you have to kind of not kill the oil, but you have to little by little. How do you say? Not burn it, but make it lose some of that, and that's an art. We have a couple of kids that have been with me and over here at the Alliance and the Alianza for the past 8 years, and they've become master where, we don't even use a what do you call that thing to for the temperature?
Now, let me ask.
Hygrometer?
Yeah. So because they'll know just by, feeling the wrapper, stretching the wrapper, when it needs to be turned, when it needs to be, when it's ready to be used.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. Uh, and again, it's a question of, the experience, the time that one has doing this, the different tobaccos that we constantly working with, whether it be from Ecuador, Honduras, Jalapa, from Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, U.S. So all these, they're all different. They all have a different way of, they need to be fermented or need to be aged. So it's not a cookie cutter for every tobacco. Each has their own how do you say, they're particular in their own ways.
They
Now, let
have
me.
their own personalities, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's
So let me ask you this question: is there any kind of tobacco that you have worked with that you just don't like to work with because it's just too challenging for the kind of stuff that you like to blend?
Great question.
a great question. There is one, uh, there is one that people love. I mean, in Nicaragua, people love this tobacco, and they use it a lot. And that particular tobacco is Ometepe.
Hmm.
For some reason, I've haven't really found a blend or find a way to blend it that fits into I guess you could say my style of blending, my signature, whatever. But people love it in Nicaragua. A lot of people use it constantly,
Right.
and I haven't been able to find that uh, how to blend that tobacco. Um, there was another tobacco that we just came out with a blend called the Mata Fina from Brazil,
Hmm.
and that tobacco I used to use, way back in the early '70s when we were making cigars in Little Havana. Basically, the blends were that, Dominican tobacco, Mata Fina, and Cameroon, either Cameroon or Connecticut shade wrapper. But that was also challenging for me for a while. And then in the past, 2 or 3 years, I started, acquiring some of this tobacco, and we just came out with a cigar for the TAA that's going to be introduced, I think, in the next month or two, something like that. And that's using some Mata Fina, which is also tobacco that, again, it's not that it's rare, it's just very hard to get because the volumes out there for mass production, I guess you can say.
Hmm.
Yeah, Brazilian Matafina is a favorite tobacco of mine. The cigars that I've had with it, I've always really enjoyed. It's got a nice flavor to it. Um,
Very nice.
yeah, and I wanted to bring up that other question because it's interesting. Someone who's obviously been as successful as you have and is especially with blending and making cigars, it's always interesting to hear you know what maybe that one thing is that has kind of been like their weakness or like their that one thing they just couldn't conquer. And so for you, like what tobacco is it that you just couldn't really blend? Maybe or maybe not yet. Well, let's not rule it out. Maybe someday it'll come to you. But
That's coming. That's coming. But up to now, it's been kind of, like I said, it's been kind of difficult.
maybe that's how you get cigar of the year number 3. Maybe you finally figure out how to, blend that just right, and then there it is, and you get number
Boom.
3. That could be the secret right there.
Those that I like to do, there's a couple of things I like to do. One thing that I want to do, of course, is make a blend, and not necessarily to get a number one cigar, but make an old Dominican blend. Um, that that's something that I have. Well, we use a lot of Dominican tobacco, especially on the inch. That's basically, 90% Dominican, and the Reserva. But I want to do an all Dominican cigar. That's I guess my next goal. And then of course, keep working with that Ometepe to see if we can get the third number one.
Now
Might make it there.
there's something that I wanted to ask you about. You've been quoted in saying that the Cuban Davidoff is a huge inspiration to you, and that it's kind
Mm,
of been something that's been on your mind as through the years, even with La Gloria Cubana. Um,
right.
that you've kind of used as an inspiration, something to target when you're blending a cigar for the not just the cigar itself, but the experience when you're smoking it, because that was something that was really special to you. Tell me a little bit more about kind of that experience that you had with that cigar that made it so special for you.
Well, at that time, we're talking about, I don't know, 1980, maybe 81, 82.
Hmm.
And up to that time, I really had been exposed to many cigars outside, the ones that we made in the, our little factory, or, um, you know, I think there were at that time maybe like 20 chinchales. But everybody made kind of the same blend in one way or the other, because there were only two tobacco, and that was what they brought, Dominican and Matafina, Cameroon. And I remember we had a bookkeeper, and he brought me back a little 3 pack or 5 packs of those Davidoff, the Don Perignon.
Hmm.
And it was funny because that cigar was so beautiful. I remember the aesthetic. It was a beautiful cigar. It had that golden wrapper. It was just incredible the way the cigar looked. And what intrigued me was, as I was smoking it, I was getting this, smooth, uh, maybe like a medium, very flavorful smoke, which I hadn't, like I said, I hadn't experienced. I really hadn't smoked, Cuban cigars up to that point. And what knocked me out was that when I was finished smoking the cigar and I got ready to stand up, I got dizzy. I said, what is this? That cigar has such strength, but it was such a sneak up. It was like a body experience, which is what I try to do
Huh.
uh, with my blend. Not just oh, it's strong, it's this, it's that, it tastes like this, it tastes like that, or whatever. I want this thing to, I want this thing to give you an experience. That it be an experience that when you're smoking that cigar, you know, it'll tell you something. This is a special moment.
It'll make
Uh,
you pay attention.
exactly. I mean, you may be sitting at home, you may be sitting in your backyard, you may be sitting with friends or whatever, but it's got to be more than just a cigar that, oh yeah, it was strong, it was, this. What else was there? Maybe the people you're with will make it even that more special. Um, and that's part of the experience also, smoking a cigar. What were you doing at that time when you smoked that cigar that you remember that makes that cigar special also? So there's a lot of things about smoking a cigar than just you know with this sweet or mild or creamy or this or that. There's got to be more to it than just that. Because we can get those tastes from anything. We candy or food or not whatever. You want this. I want my cigars anyway to be an experience. And one thing that I always strive for. Back in the old days, I used to drink bourbon. And one of the things I remember about drinking bourbon was that when you drank that and it went through your throat, there was this taste or this how do you say, of barrel, or there was some spice, or and that's something that's always left an impression on me, because when I smoke, I always try to take the smoke to the throat, and then retro it, or just keep it in the palate.
Hmm.
And like bourbon was something that really influenced me a lot when I was trying to make different blends. I don't drink anymore, but that's always stay with me.
Yeah, that was actually I was gonna kind of segue into that too. Is just I know a lot of people, um, you know, cigar makers and blenders who are drinkers of various, whether it's rum or it's tequila or it's bourbon or any other, variety of whiskey. And when they blend their cigars, they always think like, well, it's not just about the cigar itself, and you kind of touched on this as well, which is I think really important. They try to blend maybe certain cigars to be paired with certain things, which I always found interesting, and it's an experience that when you do have the right cigar with the right beverage too. Like you said, it's not just about that one cigar and its flavor notes. When you have the right cigar and the right setting, and for me, I call it the complete package. The best cigar experiences I've ever had have always been the complete package. It's not just the cigar. It's when I have the right cigar and the right setting, and maybe I even have the right drink with it too, whether it's a bourbon or it's a rum or a tequila, that just goes with that cigar, and I'm just in my element, and I can really just enjoy all of it together. That's always been the best cigar experience for me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily just have to be a really high-end cigar or just a really top-notch quality cigar. It just has to be a cigar that you enjoy, and you're in a setting where you can, like you said, just really feel that, taste it,
Mm-hmm.
just hit all those notes together, and really use all of your senses when you're in that experience. And so I thought, and then you mentioned bourbon, which I'm a bourbon drinker myself, mostly bourbon and tequila, and I've just recently got into a little bit of gin, but that's a story for another time. But yeah, I wanted to get into that too. Is blending cigars to be paired with certain, maybe with certain, especially the alcohol variety, like I said, especially spirits. Are there any cigars that you have blended that maybe when you blended it, you had something else very specific in your mind, like a bourbon or a rum or something like that you like? This when this is right, when it's done and it's aged and whatever and it's ready to smoke, like this is going to be so good with X, Y, or Z.
But like I say, I don't drink anymore, so I don't drink any wine or anything like that. So I really don't think too much as far as the alcohol. What's always intrigued me, which I wish, someday we could do, or I could do, or whatever, is try to find a cigar that would go well with, different foods.
Huh.
Because I'm fascinated by by chefs, the amount of work that they put into coming up with a dish, and it's almost like making a cigar, except in their case, there's, I don't know, I think there's a more finesse way that they do it that we as cigar blenders are not there yet, but they get to pick, the different vegetables, the different, fish or meats or whatever, or the different spices that they want to use, for a particular dish. And it's a one-time thing, or maybe they keep that dish on the menu for X amount of time. But that's where my head is at, and where I want to, be able to do something like that. And again, not necessarily to make large production, but just something that's very unique, that you a cigar like you would go to a particular dish by a famous chef. And I got into that because I was in Peru a few years ago, and there's this chef there, what's his name, Virgilio, from Central. And you see that guy work, you see some of the dishes. He has an open kitchen. You see some of the dishes that they make, man. It's pure like imagination. It's just magic. And I'm thinking to myself, why can't we do that with cigars? And and I think it's something that can be done. Not look at this as a cigar for your everyday. For this is a cigar. Experience is going to be special because this cigar was made with that in mind, to give you an experience that perhaps, you're not going to get in other moments made with other cigars.
So that's a great segue to a question I had, and you've actually created an analogy for me that now I don't have to create, which is, using that chef analogy, right? When you're going to create your dish, aka your next blend, like walk us through your journey, right? Like what goes on in Ernesto's mind when he's like, all right, I'm gonna try to create this new blend. I mean, not the mechanics and all that detail, but just, in your head as the chef, right? What are you going through? What are you looking for when you go through that process?
It's like, you have to have something that you feel is special, and it all starts with the tobacco. If you're gonna do a blend, if you're gonna make blends just to say I need to get something out next year because we need to, whatever, that's gonna be something that perhaps you do, but is your heart gonna be 100% on it?
Right.
You get excited. You get excited about it. And this is something that with me, it all starts with seeing a tobacco, a special tobacco, whatever. That's to me is something that perhaps is something we don't have in our current blends, but it's something that maybe will blend well with some of the tobaccos we have. But it's an inspiration. I just can't tell you. I go in there and I see a tobacco, and maybe I'll say, oh yeah. Like for instance, today I went to see some tobacco for the Inch, and from that moment that I burned, that first leaf, I said, man, this is really exceptional. And so that got me excited. So now, we started making blends. Of course, it's all Dominican. We started making blends, and I'm dying tomorrow to try, something that, some of the blends that we made with that particular tobacco. But that's the case, Then I say, okay, this tobacco is great with this particular blend. Let me start blending this now, maybe with some Nicaragua, maybe from some Mexico, and see what gives. So that's a process now that, in the next month or 2 months, I'll start coming up with blends. We have a couple of guys also that work with that are, are really getting up to speed with the blending process. So we'll make like 1, 2, 3 blends, and then, we'll try them. Our process usually goes to 30 days. After 30 days is when we really, see, okay, this is worth keep working with, or this is maybe not, as good as we thought it was. But you have to give that blend that time. You have to work together with tobacco.
Wow, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
But it's an inspiration. It's something, and you say, what, I gotta try that. I gotta have that. I gotta see what that's gonna be like. And basically, that's how I come up with all the different blends that I come up with.
Guys, I had to pause it there because we have to hit our news segment for the week. Our news segment is brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. If you're not an ambassador, head over to McAuliffeCigars.com and sign up to become an ambassador today, where you'll get your official ambassador number, your coin, and as well as sign up for the McAuliffe. Keep an eye out. I'm sorry, I butchered that. Keep an eye out at your local stores for a McAuliffe tasting passport. And you can smoke through the McAuliffe line and save your bands and put it on your flavor notes, and you can submit it back for a chance to win some cool stuff from McAuliffe Cigars. This week from Drew Estate, the Liga Privada Unico Series Papas Fritas, which most people know and love. They're fantastic little smokes from Drew Estate. Formerly in 50-count boxes, they will now be repackaged into 25-count boxes, replacing the 50-count box. So now they'll be available in a smaller quantity, which actually I kind of like better. I do like the Papas Fritas myself, but I've always kind of wished that it was in a smaller box. So I'm really glad.
50 is a commitment.
Yeah, 50 is a commitment. As much as I love the cigar, 50 is a commitment. That's a lot of cigars. Even if they're small, that's a lot of cigars. So this is nice. I think it's a nice touch. I'm glad they're doing this. They'll retail for about $5.75 per a cigar, or $143.87 for the box price, and I believe they will start to be available sometime in August. So keep an eye out in August at your local Drew Estate retailer or online retailer for the new 25-count boxes of Papas Fritas. So, Ernesto, let me go back to this. I'm still trying to get comfortable with all the transitions. I don't have Nicole here to babysit me. One of the things I read about you that I thought was really interesting, which is kind of non-cigar related, was that when you were younger, you really wanted to be a jazz musician.
Yeah, exactly. At least that's what I thought I wanted to be.
Yeah.
You were a drummer, right?
Yeah, you were a drummer.
Yeah. I started in the school band when I was, what was it, 15, maybe 14, something like that. And I just got into it. I started listening to jazz, and I was really, in love and enamored with jazz and the different drummers of the era. And that was really what I wanted to do. And I think when I was 19, I got married and I started playing professionally. I used to play in different clubs around Miami. Always looking for that big break where I would become like the next Tony Williams or Elvin Jones or whatever. And it was in 1976 when I went to New York to try out my luck. But one thing about that I found out, just because you go there, you think you're good or you can make it. It's not that easy. It's something that takes time. And you hear stories of people that are famous now, and they've been there 10, 15, 20 years before they got their lucky break. I was lucky to get a break with a jazz saxophonist, Stan Getz, and I auditioned with him. But fortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately. Fortunately, I wasn't up to up to their level. And I came back to Miami, kept playing, and decided to go and get into the cigar business with my father. And then when he passed away in 1980, I took over the company. That's really when I got, it was like a new, how do you say, a new life. I found something that I hadn't had before, even though I was working in a cigar factory, because that was my father's thing, and it was a different business altogether than what it is today. Uh, and needless to say, after the boom in 1992, the whole business took a turn that we are where we are today.
Now, I know that it was kind of around that time when after you took over the business, when your father passed away, and then as we were talking about, you know, doing more blending, and we talked about your inspiration behind the Cuban Davidoffs and whatnot, and you went on to start before EP Carrillo, where you are now. You had started the La Gloria Cubana brand in the United States,
Right.
which is also a Cuban brand, from Cuba, where you were born. Actually, you were born in Cuba. So tell us a little bit about kind of how that brand started, and then kind of where you went from there with that. I mean, I know now you sold that brand, but how did that really come to be at that time? From your father's company, and then you kind of start this new brand.
Well, no, the brand actually was around 1968, and that brand, the first brand we had was El Credito, which was a factory that he had in Cuba, was named El Credito, and then he registered as Rico Habano, and then in 19, I think it was 72, 71, something like that, he registered the La Gloria Cubana, and at that time, really, the sales that we were doing were mostly like local sales. For El Credito, the mazos, the bundles, and the cazadores and the super cazadores. So that was where he was making most of his doing most of his business. At Rico Habano, we had that was also like our first out of Florida brand. We had a gentleman up in Chicago, Hank Greenberg, distribute that. La Gloria really didn't come into play till I took it over. And the reason for that being, I remember I went to the Miami Public Library, and they were having a show of different cigar labels from Cuba, from other places, more like a Cuban type thing where they had the labels, they had, some magazines, that type of stuff. Anyway, I saw the original label of La Gloria Cubana, and I bought it. And I had that label, try to copy it down here in Florida, in Miami, which, it was hard because that label has such beautiful details, or has such beautiful details, the gold bronzing, all that other stuff, that unfortunately in Florida, you can't use that gold bronzing like they do in Europe. So I got in touch with a company called TSO up in Holland. As a matter of fact, they visited me, which was strange because we were a small company, we weren't really doing that much, and they came and they visited me. Paul Niken was great gentleman, and I gave him the label. He said, "Can you reproduce this?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." And he reproduced the label, the band, and that's really how La Gloria Cubana came into being. And the funny thing was that the gentleman that had those labels had he had some type of shop like a block from us. And I had been there before, but I had never seen this. This was like a special collection. So, we started doing the Gloria. That became kind of now became the flagship because it had the nicer packaging. Before the Ricovano and the Credito were basically in bundles. So this had the nicer packaging. This was going to be like the higher end, whatever. And with time, just started progressing. This was back, I don't know, 70 something. Well, actually about 82, 83. And then by the time Cigar Aficionado rated it in their magazine, which didn't get that big of a rating, the Weibo got a 90. It became an instant success. So it became like a boutique brand, which and in fact, La Gloria Cubana was never one of the big brands of Cuba. It was always a smaller boutique brand, which were made in the same town where my father had the El Credito factory, San Antonio de los Baños, and it was really never a big brand out there. And then when we got the ratings, when we got everything going, it just became a big, huge success. And I think what helped out a lot also was later on when I came out with the CDR. That really took the brand, to a different level.
Now you talk a lot about we have at least tonight on the show. We talked a lot about cigars getting higher ratings. You got 2 cigars of the year. You've had other cigars that have gotten higher ratings. As much as that's a good thing, from a production standpoint, is it also kind of like this double-edged sword where it's great, you get that recognition, but then all of a sudden that demand just goes through the roof?
Yeah.
Because everybody wants it now because, this is the cigar to have. And you get to a place, especially last year, like with the pandemic, you're still fresh with, you had 2 cigar of the years, high in demand. The pandemic where a lot of people had, or still do, are getting caught up. They had smaller production, smaller staff. How do you, on a moment's, well, maybe not on a moment's notice, but, it's somewhat suddenly, you get that and, oh, you're the one, you're cigar of the year. How do you kind of pivot to adjust your factory to keep up with that quick change of demand?
It's very difficult. When the pandemic hit us, we had, I think it was something like what, about 38 pairs. When the pandemic hit, because of the social distancing, because the fact that we had plans that to expand the factory. We were looking at a building to add more space to the factory. And then when the pandemic hit us, we were hit with this where you gotta have social distancing, no more than 6 feet. It was scary times. So we had to let go of about 40% of our employees, unfortunately, because the place just wasn't big enough to have everybody there. And then when we got, we got hit with the number 1, and everything started. You really can't. It just takes time to try to catch up, and we still haven't catched up. So the only thing we could do is, with the people that we have, we started working overtime, we started working Saturdays, started working Sundays. But remember, it's not only about the cigars; it's also the people that make the bands, that makes the boxes. With the boom that was going on there, and it's going on constantly, everybody's now on back order to one extent or the other. Not only the makers, but also the box makers, the people that, in general, that work in the industry. So there was nothing you can do. I mean, for a long time there, I was really, I guess you could say, frustrated. Um, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I can only control what I can control, and what's outside my controls, I don't want to, waste too much time thinking about it. But we tried, and I think now we're coming back. We're back up now to a what, 30? I think we're back up to 39 pairs now, 38 or 39 pairs. We've put in a school where we're teaching people, because I have a feeling this is going to keep going for a long time. This boom is going to keep going.
Right.
There is no easy way to say, we're going to turn it out, especially if you want to, if you want to keep that quality, because the worst thing that could happen is, you come out with a number one and then you decide, you know what, we can make all we want and we're going to sell it. People nowadays, they catch on very fast.
Right.
And they'll know, if that cigar maker, if it's made by an amateur, or it's made somewhere, whatever, they'll know.
I think that's. No, go ahead, Nelson. No, Nelson, go ahead.
Well, I was just, that made me think of now that you're starting to work towards getting somewhat to some normalcy, right?
Let me, Nelson, that's what we. I'm sorry. That's what we thought too. We went to the PCA. Everything again. I told people, look, we're in back order. Let's just be here and try not to, I mean, and you know what? People didn't care. This was the best show that we've had, in our new company in the past 10 years. And we would tell people, look, you have 40 boxes backward. No, I want 40 more. So, I mean, that tells me that, the cigar's still very in demand, that they know it's going to be in demand for a time coming. And they just want to be prepared to have that cigar in stock. And that's happening, with the pledge, with the, I'll give you an example. When we came out as a limited Parientes, we were going to come out with 500 boxes. Well, that 500 boxes turned out to 1,500. Finally, I said, stop. Let's just stop, because, this thing is getting out of control. So it was a great experience. But you never are, how do you say, prepared enough for something like that. And, sometimes people ask me, but you went through that with the Encore. Yes, but this is, like I said, twice, 3 times the demand. So there's no way.
I was going to ask something related to that. So I think you're already hitting on it, which is, in talking to other brands and even retailers, there's almost like the beginnings of another, I don't want to say a boom like the 90s, but there's definitely more people smoking now than there were probably 3 years ago. And I know even last year with the pandemic, there was no shortage of consumers. Shops I was going to here in New England, there was more and more people going there, probably because they were just looking to get the hell out of the house, I guess. But are you seeing that as well? Are you seeing more outside of your number ones, right? Are you just seeing in general more demand?
I am, and it's incredible because this demand is worldwide. Not only in the States, it's in Europe, it's in Asia. It's worldwide, and I think it's because people, needless to say, they're staying at home more. They have more time. They have more, money to spend on cigars or whatever, because they're not driving. They're not, or they weren't driving and needing to spend on, lunches and that type of stuff. But the interesting thing is that these people that have started doing this, now they're going out and they're visiting cigar shops. They haven't stopped their how do you say, their not habit, but smoking the 2 or 3 cigars that they were smoking before.
Yeah.
Because they're, before, maybe people smoke 1 cigar, 2 cigars a week. Now, when you're home all day, you can smoke maybe 2 cigars a day. Needless to say, you're going to take that opportunity and do it. And I think that's what we see now. But I think that even, after everybody goes back to work, I think we're still going to have a very healthy and very strong industry.
And then
So,
just a follow up to that, aside from the cigar industry, but it applies to it. Every industry is essentially there's learnings that have come out of the pandemic, right? You know, like a lot of companies were not big on remote people working remotely. Now they're seeing the benefits of that. They're shrinking their footprint with real estate. Are you seeing that in the cigar industry as well, where we learned a different way to work during the pandemic, and we're actually some of those things were benefits that we're now going to apply moving forward?
oh, I think, for sure. I think that if you see, that, I think there's a lot of things, even before the pandemic, the
Yeah,
social stuff, the Amazons of the world, everything that's, I mean, technology, has grown in the past, 5 years, like maybe never before. The fact that people now they want something, you don't have to go to a restaurant to eat. You can order it, or you can order something from Amazon that perhaps you can't find in your local stores. So I think people are kind of, in a way, they're kind of used to having everything at their disposal as soon as they want it. That easy gratification when they want everything now, and
yeah,
they'll know that they'll be able to get it by making a phone call. Whether it's food, whether it's cigars or whatever. But I think also that people actually do enjoy going into cigar stores. Going into a cigar store, going to a lounge, um, especially if they're in their house all day. At some point they want to go out and they want to say, you know what, I want to sit down, smoke a cigar, and see people. And
yep,
it's funny. So I was in a place the other day in Arizona, and this gentleman, he has this private club, and he had like four gentlemen that were working, and so we started talking a little bit. One guy's a equities guy, the other guy's into technology, whatever. He says, I was working out of the house, but after a while that gets old. I want to go out, and cigar store, cigar lounge is perfect. And this place was really set up, beautifully. So I see you're going to see a lot of that also. The working from the house is fine, but after a while that thing gets old. You need to get out.
yeah,
And I think that we're going to see a lot more. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of the cigar stores are doing as well as they're doing, because people are actually going out and smoking cigars with other people.
yeah.
I
I've
mean,
actually seen retailers open.
all the time, but it's also nice to once in a while have somebody to smoke with.
Right, exactly.
I think that's a great point. I mean, people smoke alone. I mean, I smoke alone. We all smoke alone, from time to time. But it's definitely more enjoyable, I would say, for me, being with people, sharing a cigar with other people. It's the social aspect, which, you know, we say this all the time, you know, is really what makes the cigar industry so special. It doesn't matter like who you are or what you do, where you come from. If you're all together in a cigar lounge and having a cigar, it could be, me or Nesto, it could be, three other people who are totally different kinds of people. We could all be sitting here having a cigar, and we could all have a conversation. And it's a very unique thing, and it's what makes cigars so special. And so, yeah, if people want to get out, they want to be in that circle, especially if you're a cigar smoker and you're regularly part of those circles.
Part of
Exactly.
the experience. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's a gentleman, Bob Lutz. He used to be, one of the CEOs with, I think it was General Motor or Ford, one of those companies. And I remember reading his book, and one time I said to myself, I'd really like to be able to meet this gentleman someday. And was it 2 years ago, maybe? Um, I met the gentleman. He says, you know what, Ernesto, I love your cigars. This was at the Churchill dinner. I love your cigars. He was smoking an Encore. And I said to myself, you know, this is incredible. A guy that you look up to actually, in one way, maybe then the same way, looks up to you for the cigar that you're making. So that was, it just goes to show you, I had another friend that was, smoking a cigar. Somebody comes up to him and asks him, that cigar smells nice. What is that? And it was Steve Harvey.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, the guy he said, "Wait a minute, this can't be happening, man." The guy he said the guy was as nice as could be. We were talking cigars, we were smoking cigars. It was nothing about anything else that mattered. So, hey, man, it's I don't want to say this because I want to sound arrogant or anything like that, but listen to this story because this is nice. Years ago, before Cigar Aficionado, Arnold Schwarzenegger walked into my little store, A Street store. And, he comes in. It was late. I don't think there were any cigar makers. He starts walking around. I call my wife. I call my kid. My daughter was with her. I said, come and meet Arnold. Yeah, listen to this. So it happens that my kid had a shirt of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And the guy's walking around, not really being, I gotta say it, not being, how do you say that, friendly? Let's put it that way. 'Cause
He was
he's
being
that
kind
way.
of maybe quiet, a little closed off.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he walked around, he signed my son's shirt and that type of stuff. And then years later, we were at a Nice to Remember, Cigar Aficionado Nice to Remember. And who do you think walks up to me and says, Ernesto, I'm really enjoying your cigars? Arnold. So, I mean, it's
How
incredible.
cool is that?
That's so cool, man. I don't tell that story many times because that is so cool that you say, man, it's funny without really intentionally trying to impress anybody. You're impressing somebody as big as this person, with a personality as big as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Trust me. So
Well,
that's yeah.
I was gonna
And we
say,
met, Robert De Niro, Bill Cosby, Sharon Stone. They used to come in and buy cigars, and you know, you look at those people, and they're just like you and me. There's nothing different about them, and they're so down to earth, incredible.
yeah. I mean, I would say I know what you were getting at with, like, maybe not wanting to sound a certain way or whatever. But I think there are people who want to sound that way, and then there's people who they tell the same story, but it's more of just a pride thing. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like you made something that was really good that everyone can appreciate from all different kinds of walks of life. But
Right.
also, yeah. But I mean, you're right. They're all people just like me and you. I mean, people like cigars. I mean, celebrities still smoke cigars. They like people like Arnold, Steve Harvey, even Sylvester Stallone. Big cigar smokers. Big cigar smokers. I mean, they love it just like we do. And yeah, I mean, they're international superstars, but they love it the same. And that's what again, that's what makes it so special. I'm sure there's been other people who've get into that circle where they're smoking with someone like that, and it's like, oh my god, I'm with them, and it's like, what brought us together? We're all just having a cigar together. I mean, there's
And
nothing else
that's
like
how
it.
they don't want to be seen. They don't want to be seen as somebody that smokes a cigar just to show off or whatever. They want to be seen as a human being that's enjoying a cigar like you are. Enjoying it with you. And when you look at Michael Jordan, he's an avid cigar smoker. Yeah, when you were in with him, not that I've been with him that many times or whatever, but he's just a normal person. There's no thing about basketball or money. It's about cigars. You know, let's talk about cigars. Let's talk about what what cigars out there that you like or whatever. And this is what's so great about this. So in this case, whether you're smoking a $2 cigar or you're smoking $100 cigars, it's no difference. It's all the same, and that under those circumstances.
Well,
Yeah.
Ernesto, I did the same thing. I texted my son when I found out I was going to be on the show with you, so I'll be sending you his shirt for you to sign.
Okay. You have to. You have to.
Yeah, I mean that's it's an interesting. You run into a celebrity, someone like that who is a cigar smoker, and it kind of what it is something that I just kind of came to me. A lot of people might just get all excited and want to be the fan or whatever, but it's like, if you want to not be like a typical fan or just be like, oh my God, hey, I want to meet you. It's like if you're a cigar smoker and you run into someone who smokes cigars, that advantage of an icebreaker that you have, instead of just being all like real fangirl, you could be like, oh, I know you're a big cigar smoker, by the way. What do you like to smoke? You start the cigar conversation, and I've been in this situation before myself, and you'll notice that like the tune changes because it's not like the hi, yes, it's nice to meet you. It's oh, cigars, and then the whole thing changed. Like, oh yeah, it's fine. Oh, I smoke this, and I smoke this, and oh yeah, I really love these from this guy. Oh, those are great. And all of a sudden, you're having this conversation with someone who you never thought you'd ever talk to, and you're not just doing the hi, how are you? You're actually getting into a pretty in-depth conversation that they also want to be in, in over cigars, and it's so fun when it happens.
Do you find, Matt, and I'm wondering when Ernesto goes to a lounge if the same thing happens, which is, I agree with you that the cigar always becomes a conversation starter, right? My wife always says I never met a stranger. Every time I go somewhere, I just meet people, but it's very true in a shop, like Matt was saying. But then it just segues into normal conversation. You hear about their families, you hear about their jobs, and it just, that cigar is what links us together and starts the conversation. I've always thought that was super cool.
It is incredible, and it is super cool because, like, at that point, we're all, at one point or another, we're all brothers, and that's something that in cigar shops also, you go to cigar shops and you meet people, and after a while, the conversation gets into, like what you're saying, family and cars and drinks, and whatever else. It's not, the cigar is just an opener for all these other things, beautiful things that all the humans can relate to.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely an advantage that the cigars have over almost any other industry, especially like alcohol. I mean, it's like when you think about it, it's like
That's a great analogy.
Just like have it, like, I'm trying to put it into like a certain context here, but it's like, imagine like just running into like a celebrity and talking about like having a drink, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But it's like you bring up cigars, and it's all of a sudden it's almost like you're part of this secret club with them, and it's like, oh, you too? Oh my God! And it's a different kind of social engagement, versus like sitting down and having a drink with someone is kind of like cool, but it's like, but you sit down and you have a cigar with someone, it's a much different experience. It's a very different experience. It's not, we're just sitting here drinking and like it means nothing. It's, cigars are a lot about tradition too, is what I like to say. It's tradition. So you meet someone who's an avid cigar smoker, and it's almost like, regardless of who someone is or whatever, it's you're
more open to share that cigar with you.
Right. And I think that, and that's what's most important about it.
See, I like your analogy because, like what I was just saying, Matt just hit it on the head, right? When you go in a bar, you're in the similar situation, right? You're doing the same thing, you're amongst strangers, but it's not the same, right? You just don't end up in that same conversation with the stranger. In fact, people are almost more standoffish in a bar, but yet everything is open arms in a cigar lounge.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's exactly how it is.
I remember the first time, like, I've met so many people in the industry. There was, I was at IPCPR 2 years ago in the bar, and I'd bump into people and I'd say hello, whatever, and they'd be like, hi, yeah, okay, whatever. And then, like, not that they weren't friendly, they weren't really chatty, they didn't want to stop and talk. But it's like, then I'd run into them at a cigar lounge, and they'd sit down, they would talk to me for 2 hours over a cigar. And it's amazing how all of a sudden it changes. Right. And I think, maybe cigars could help solve some of the world's problems that way. At least I like to hope so. But, Ernesto, we've covered a lot of ground here tonight on the show, and I want to thank you, for being on the show with us tonight. But I guess before we go, the one more thing I wanted to ask you about before we wrap up is, earlier this year, I know you guys had announced that you're doing you're bringing back the retro short run production that you guys have done. Tell me a little bit more about that. Is it something you've done before and you're bringing back?
Well, we started that in 2010, and one of the reasons we did that was because when we came out in 2019, we came out with the inaugural, which was a cigar that I want to say people were expecting something else from me as far as the type of cigars that I came out with. But in all honesty, I didn't want to, do what I was doing before. Otherwise I would have stayed, with General Cigar. I
Hmm.
wanted to do something, and it was, want to set a new, vision pace for the company. But then in 2010, the idea of the short run came up as because we introduced our first core line, I think it was in April or May of 2010. But needless to say, we had to do something. I didn't have that many cigar makers. I think I had like 8 cigar makers. So I said, why don't we do this, get like a pre-introduction to what's going to be coming. And that was a cigar that was, more in line, maybe a little bit fuller body, had more of the spice, the pepper that, people were looking for. And that was a huge success, the 2010 short run. So we did that for about 2016 was the last one. And what we do is we make a short run based on the lines that we have. For instance, the first one was going to be based on the core, and then the second one was going to be based on the, I don't remember what it was now, maybe the Cardinal or something like that. So we did all those, and after 5 years, we came up with a final one on 2016, and we said, you know what, let's put this to the side now, and give it some time. So then in 2001, my son came to me, in 2021, I'm sorry, and he says, Dad, I want to do the short run again. And the idea was to do, well, we had done the same packaging, which it is, but then, my daughter and the marketing people we had there, they came up with the idea of coming out with the same concept, same packaging, but with different, based on long plays, middle plays, and short plays, something like that. Something to do with the record industry, since I was a drummer. I
Right.
was into music. And that's where the play comes into being. So it was it was really, because it's really doing tremendously. As a matter of fact, we went through 40,000, and we're looking to maybe doing a second, second run of these.
Yeah, I
So,
remember. I remember reading about that and knowing about your musical background and being like, that's nice. And I like when people do. And a lot of manufacturers do it. Not everyone, I would say, but I mean, most people do. When they come out with certain things and they put these little touches from their personal life into stuff, whether it's the name or the band style or whatever. I think it's cool. There's like a like another piece of them in that, and I thought that was really cool. And yeah, I love that. I love that concept too, and I wanted to ask you about it. But yeah, so we are getting towards the end of our show here. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you again for coming on with us. I really appreciate you sitting down and talking with us and just talking cigars. And Nelson, thank you for being here tonight. Hell of a job on your
Yeah,
first.
thanks for having me on. I mean, this was a treat. Ernesto, I didn't even know you were going to be on, so this was really great for me. This was a big win. This is like meeting Schwarzenegger for me.
Yeah.
well, listen, very, very much. It's easy to do a show like this, and when you're enjoying it, when time goes by fast, and you say, where did the time go? You guys made this, easy for me, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, we
It
try.
was really no. I mean, I'm not. There's some. I'm not gonna say shows, but instances where you're dealing with people, they're doing an interview, and it's kind of, okay, where's the next question? Where, I don't know what it is, but with you guys, it was very easy, so I appreciate that.
It's like being in a lounge.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
it. So it's just like being in a lounge. That's all it is. That's all. That's kind of the method to the madness here at the Smokin Tabacco Show. But yeah, I wanted to thank you again for coming on. And if there's anything you want to say or anything you want to announce, any statements you want to make on the show, I'm gonna let you. I'll let you have the floor first.
Well, we are, definitely, working. We have the RPG that came out, the Parientes, the short run. We are working on, new stuff for, next year. Um, and I'm just having the time of my life with the industry the way it is now. We do ask, a lot of our fans, all of our fans out there, to be patient. Believe me, we want to put as the cigar that got the #1 rating. And if it takes, we sell more or less, it's not really important. What's important is that whatever you smoke is what got those ratings and what you'll be smoking, not only today, but hopefully 10, 15 years from now. So, and I want to thank, all our fans because they've been real patient, I mean, and it's been great. And I want to thank, people like yourself that, do these shows. This is very important. A lot of people out there, they don't realize that there's a lot of information. There's a lot of, people self like, that are trying to keep this industry interesting and alive. And, I'm forever indebted, guys, because I know it's a lot of work. I know there's nothing in it for you, except just the fact that you love doing this and you love cigars. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for the kind words too. Yeah, I mean we do it because we love it, and like you're right, we're trying to keep the industry alive and get that information out to people who might want to learn that or hear it or whatever it is, and that's the drive here is just to continue to fuel the industry, so to speak. So thank you again, Nelson.
Thank you.
It's your turn, buddy. Anything you want to say on the Smoking Tobacco Show? It's your first shot. There'll be more times to come, so I mean, don't let it
Is
all
this
at
the
once.
shameless plug section?
Yeah, this is the shameless plug section. There you go. I'm throwing you a bone here. I mean, come on.
No, listen, Matt, I sincerely wanted to thank you, and again, it's awesome joining the Smokin Tobacco team. I'm psyched about the future. Ernesto, sincerely great. I don't even call this an interview. I sincerely mean it. It's just a conversation. That's why I don't mind doing this with Matt. I'm with you. I don't like questioning. I just want to talk. Let's just talk. Have stories. Love that shit. Hey, follow me on Instagram, cigar_squad, cigar squad. So it's cigar_squad. Check out my new podcast, the Smoke Show podcast. You can find it on YouTube and on your favorite podcast provider. Matt, over to you.
Yeah, don't forget to check out Nelson. Like I said, he will be a new permanent member of the Smokin Tabacco team. He'll be on the show from time to time, but you can also read a lot of his stuff that will be on smokintobacco.com. On a very frequent basis, so keep an eye out for that. As always, like, follow, subscribe on all of our platforms, especially wherever podcasts can be found for those listening at home on the podcast channels. Find us, download, subscribe, whatever it is that you do. Check us out on YouTube as well as on social media. Next week, we will be here, same time, same place, and we'll be sitting down with my good friend, Mr. Bear Duplessis of El Oso Fumar Takes. So a little bit of another media mashup next week as we dive in and we get into the bear cage and we let the bear loose. So guys, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for everyone watching, everyone listening at home. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
Thank you, guys.